My dear child, stop whatever you are doing right now. Just stop for one moment. Take a slow breath. Because what I am about to share with you today is not just another message. It is not just words floating through your screen. It is something that has been meant for you, prepared for you, and delivered to you at exactly this moment in your life. You may have stumbled across this video by accident, but I want you to know there are no accidents when it comes to your heart. Something brought you here, and that something knew you needed to hear this today. There is a trap near you, and before you think this is going to be a scary message, let me put your heart at ease. I am not here to frighten you. I am not here to point fingers at you or make you feel ashamed. I am here because I love you deeply, and real love always tells the truth, even when the truth is a little uncomfortable. Real love does not stay quiet when it sees someone it cares about walking towards something that could hurt them. And so today, I am not going to stay quiet. This trap I am talking about is not the kind you can see with your eyes. It is not dramatic. It does not look like destruction. It does not come dressed in darkness or danger. In fact, it comes dressed in something far more deceptive. It comes dressed in comfort. It comes dressed in familiarity. It comes dressed in the ordinary rhythm of your everyday life. And that is exactly why so many people walk right into it without ever realizing what happened. You have been telling yourself that everything is fine. You have been saying to yourself, I am okay. I am just navigating life like everyone else does. And in many ways, you are right. You are carrying responsibilities. You are managing relationships. You are dealing with pressures that nobody fully sees or understands. You are doing your best, and I see that. I truly see that. But deep inside, beneath all of that business and all of that effort, something has felt a little bit off. Not dramatically off. Not obviously broken. Just slightly unsettled, like a small stone sitting inside your shoe. It does not stop you from walking, but every single step reminds you that something is not quite right. That feeling is not random. That feeling is not just stress. That feeling is a signal. And today, I want to help you understand what that signal is trying to tell you. Because you have been pushing it aside for long enough. You have been calling it overthinking. You have been labeling it as anxiety. You have been telling yourself you are just tired. But what if it is more than tiredness? What if your heart has been trying to get your attention? And this is the moment you finally slow down enough to listen. The trap near you is built from something very simple. It is built from small compromises. It is built from tiny adjustments you made when you were tired or overwhelmed. It is built from the little moments where you told yourself, just this once, or just for now, or it is not that big of a deal. None of those moments felt enormous on their own. None of them looked like a turning point. But taken together, they have been slowly shifting you in a direction that your spirit is not comfortable with. And your spirit has been whispering about it. You just have not been listening closely enough. I want you to stay with me through this entire message. I know the world is full of distractions. I know your phone is probably buzzing and your mind is probably running in 10 different directions. But I am asking you to give me this time. What I am going to share with you has the power to change something real in your life. Not just emotionally, but practically. Not just temporarily, but deeply. So stay with me. Guard your focus. This message is for you. Every video on this channel is created with love, faith, and dedication to sharing God's Word. If these messages inspire and encourage you, you can support our mission through the Ko-Fi or PayPal links in the description and pinned comment. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now let me speak to you about something even more specific. Something you may recognize immediately. You have been using a word that feels very innocent, Very polite, very reasonable. That word is later. You have been saying later to the things that matter most. You sensed that you needed to pray more deeply, and you told yourself, later when I have more time. You felt that you needed to set a boundary in a relationship, and you said, later when things calm down. You knew you needed to make a change in a habit or a pattern, and you convinced yourself, later when I feel stronger and more ready. And I want you to understand something gently but clearly. Later has become one of the most comfortable traps in your life. Not because it is evil. Not because you meant harm by it, but because it has a way of feeling so reasonable in the moment, while quietly stealing your momentum over time. Every time you said later to something important, you were not just postponing an action. You were postponing a version of yourself. You were delaying the growth that was ready and waiting for you. Think about it honestly. How many times have you told yourself you would pray more when your schedule freed up, only to find that your schedule never really freed up the way you hoped? How many times have you said you would let go of a certain habit when you felt more prepared, only to find that preparation never quite arrived on its own? How many times have you postponed a difficult conversation, an important decision, a meaningful change, waiting for the perfect moment, only to realize that the perfect moment was actually the very one you kept walking past? Later is a comfortable cushion. It softens the discomfort of the present moment. It tells you that you are being patient, that you are being wise, that you are not rushing. But in reality, in your specific season right now, delay is not patience. Delay is distance. Every time you say later to something I am calling you toward, you create a little more space between where you are and where you are meant to be. And enough small spaces, added together, become a significant gap. I am not saying this to put pressure on you or to make you feel behind. I am saying this because I see the window that is open in front of you right now. I see the opportunity that exists in this very season of your life. And I know, because I see what you cannot see, that windows do not stay open forever. They shift. They close quietly, not with a dramatic slam, just a slow, gentle closing that you only notice once the opening is gone. Do not let that happen. The time to respond to what is stirring in your heart is now. Not tomorrow. Not after the weekend. Not when things settle. Now. Because now is when the door is still wide open. Now is when the correction is still simple. Now is when momentum can be restarted with just one intentional step. You do not need to fix everything at once. You just need to take one honest step today. One real movement in the right direction. That is all it takes to break the cycle of later. And here is what I want you to understand about that step. It does not have to be big. It does not have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. Send the message you have been avoiding. Make the appointment you have been putting off. End the pattern you know is weakening you. Start the habit you know would strengthen you. Pick one thing, the thing your heart already knows, and do it today. Not later, today. Before we go further, I want to pause here and ask you something from my heart. If this message is speaking to you, if something in these words is landing in a real place inside you, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel right now. Because what you are hearing today is just one piece of a much larger journey that we are walking together. Every week, messages like this one are prepared with your heart in mind. Messages that will meet you in your real life, in your real struggles, in your real seasons. Subscribe so that you never miss one. This community is being built for people exactly like you. People who are honest enough to admit they need more than surface living. People who are brave enough to keep growing. Subscribe now and become part of something that will keep pointing you toward your best and truest self. Now, let me take you a little deeper. Because beyond the trap of later, There is another pattern that has been quietly affecting your life. And this one is even more subtle, even more gradual, even harder to spot. It is called drift. And drift is what happens when you do not make a deliberate wrong turn. You simply stop making deliberate right turns. And slowly, without drama, without intention, you end up somewhere you never planned to go. You did not decide to grow distant from your peace. You did not wake up one morning and declare that your spiritual life no longer mattered. You did not choose disconnection. What happened was far quieter than that. Your schedule got full. Your responsibilities multiplied. Your emotional energy got stretched thin. And in the middle of all of that, you slowly stopped protecting your inner life with the same care and intentionality that you once gave it. You prayed, but quickly. You reflected, but distracted. You had moments of worship, but they became inconsistent. You were not rebellious. You were exhausted. And exhaustion, when left unaddressed, leads to unconscious recalibration. You began responding more to external pressure than to internal conviction. You began making decisions based on what was urgently demanding your attention, rather than what was truly important to your soul. And that shift, as small as it seemed in any given moment, has been moving you off course one tiny degree at a time. A ship does not have to crash violently to get lost at sea. It only needs to drift a few degrees off its intended direction. And over enough time, it ends up somewhere completely different from where it was heading. That is what has been happening inside you. Not a crash, a drift. And the distance may feel small right now, but drift compounds. It grows. It deepens. And the longer it goes unaddressed, the more effort it takes to correct. I want you to hear my tone very carefully right now. I am not saying this with disappointment. I am not looking at you with frustration. I am looking at you with concern. And concern that comes from love is the most tender kind of truthfulness there is. You are too precious to me to let you drift further without interruption. You are too important. Your life is too meaningful. Your calling is too specific for me to watch you float off course and say nothing. So I am saying something. I am interrupting the drift. Right now, in this moment, I am reaching into the current that has been pulling you, and I am asking you to reach back, not with panic, not with guilt, with simple, honest awareness. Recognize the drift, name it, and then choose to turn. That is all that is required of you right now. Just turn. Repentance is not a dramatic religious performance. It is simply a turning, a change of direction, a choice to face a different way. And you can make that choice right now, in the quietness of your own heart, without anyone else seeing or knowing. Just you and truth, face to face. That is enough. That is where real change always begins. Now I want to speak to you about something even more personal. Something that requires a great deal of honesty and a great deal of gentleness at the same time. Because what I am about to address is an area where many people feel shame. And shame is the last thing I want you to carry out of this conversation. I want to talk to you about compromise. Slow, quiet, almost invisible compromise. You have not made any dramatic decisions to abandon your values. You have not stood up and declared that your convictions no longer matter to you. What has happened is much subtler than that. You have been adjusting in small ways. You permitted a conversation to go a little further than it should have. You entertained a thought a little longer than was healthy. You allowed an influence into your life that has been quietly reshaping the way you see things, the way you think, the way you measure right and wrong. And each time one of these small adjustments happened, you told yourself it was fine. You told yourself you were just being practical, just being flexible, just being mature. You reassured yourself that you were still fundamentally a good person with good values. And that is true. You are. Your heart is still oriented toward good. That has not changed. But love without guardrails drifts into negotiation. And you have been quietly negotiating with things that do not deserve to be negotiated with. Here is something I want you to understand about compromise. Compromise never announces itself loudly. It never shows up at your door wearing a sign that says, "I am here to ruin your life." Instead, it knocks quietly and asks for just a small space. Just this one conversation. Just this one habit. Just this one relationship. Just this one exception. And you open the door a little, and it steps in. And it makes itself comfortable. And before long it has rearranged the furniture in your heart without you even noticing. Every compromise carries a cost. That is not a scare tactic. That is simply the truth. Sometimes the cost is immediate and obvious. But more often, the cost is delayed. It accumulates quietly in the background while you go about your life believing that nothing significant has changed. You do not see the bill until it arrives, and by then, it is much larger than you expected. What you allow into your life shapes you. What you tolerate trains you. What you excuse over time begins to define you. Not because you are weak, not because you are a bad person, but because we are all deeply influenced by what we repeatedly expose ourselves to. This is simply how human beings are designed. We absorb our environment. We are shaped by our inputs. We become, slowly and surely, what we consistently surround ourselves with. And so I want to ask you honestly, not to judge you, but to help you see clearly. What have you been allowing into your life that your spirit quietly questions? What conversations have you been participating in that leave you feeling slightly unsettled? What influences have you been absorbing that subtly pull your thinking away from your values? What habits have you been entertaining that you know, deep down, are not building the person you want to become? You already know the answers to those questions. You do not need me to spell them out for you. Your heart already knows. It has been whispering the answers for weeks, maybe months. And all I am asking you to do is to stop talking over that whisper. Stop drowning it out with justifications and comparisons and reassurances. Listen to it. Honor it. Act on what it is telling you. Draw the line again where it belongs. Close the door you left slightly open. Remove what needs to be removed. End what needs to be ended. Adjust what needs to be adjusted. And do it now, while the correction is still simple, while the roots of compromise are still shallow, while the cost of change is still manageable. Because the longer you wait, the deeper those roots grow, and the harder the work of pulling them out becomes. And here is the most important thing I want you to hear in this section. I am not asking you to do this because I am disappointed in you. I am asking you to do this because I believe in you. I know who you are capable of becoming. I know the strength that lives inside you, even when you have forgotten it is there. I am not condemning the person you have been. I am calling forward the person you are becoming. There is a difference, and I want you to feel that difference in your spirit right now. Now let me speak to you about something that is deeply practical, something that affects every single area of your life, but rarely gets addressed directly. Your attention. The thing that determines what you think about, what you feel about, what you move toward, what you become. Your attention is perhaps the most powerful resource you possess, and it is also the resource that is most constantly being pulled at, grabbed for, competed over, and stolen without your permission. You have been telling yourself that you are just busy, that your mind feels scattered because your life is full. And yes, your life is full. Your responsibilities are real. Your schedule is demanding. But what has been happening goes beyond normal business. Distraction has quietly woven itself into the fabric of your daily rhythm in ways that are draining you far more than you realize. You wake up, And before you have even had a moment of stillness, before you have even taken a deep breath and gathered yourself, your mind is already being pulled outward. Notifications, messages, headlines, other people's opinions, other people's problems, other people's lives. You absorb all of it before you have even established where your own heart is for the day. And by the time you actually sit down to do the things that matter most, your mental energy is already fragmented, your focus is already divided, and you are operating at a fraction of the clarity and depth you are actually capable of. Here is what I want you to understand about attention. Where you place your attention consistently determines what grows in your life. If you consistently place your attention on comparison, insecurity grows. If you consistently place your attention on conflict and negativity, anxiety grows. If you consistently place your attention on trivial distractions, your capacity for deep thought and deep feeling grows shallow. But if you consistently, even briefly, place your attention on truth, on purpose, on connection with me, something very different grows. Stability grows, clarity grows, strength grows, peace grows. The trap of distraction is not just about wasted time. It is about weakened discernment. When your attention is constantly fractured, your ability to hear subtle guidance grows faint. You begin to mistake emotional noise for spiritual leading. You begin to confuse what is urgent with what is important. You begin to react to everything because you have lost the ability to be still long enough to respond thoughtfully. I want to invite you into a very simple but very powerful practice. Protect your mornings. Before the world gets to speak to you, let me speak to you first. Before you pick up your phone, before you check your messages, before you step into the demands of the day, take 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. Sit quietly. Breathe. Open your heart. Ask me to guide your day. You do not need to have a dramatic spiritual experience. You just need to begin your day anchored to something deeper than the noise around you. That simple choice, made consistently, will change the atmosphere of your inner life more than almost anything else you could do. And during the rest of your day, practice noticing where your attention goes. When you find it drifting toward comparison, gently bring it back. When you feel the pull toward endless scrolling that leaves you feeling empty, gently step back. When the noise of the world starts crowding out your own clear thinking, create a moment of quiet. Even 60 seconds of intentional stillness in the middle of a chaotic day can reset your internal atmosphere in ways you would not believe until you try it. You are not a passive recipient of whatever your environment throws at you. You have authority over what you consume. You have the ability to choose what you allow to occupy your mind. Exercise that authority, deliberately, consistently, because the battle for your life is largely a battle for your attention. And right now, I want your attention, not the world's, mine. Now I want to talk to you about your emotions. This is tender ground, so I am going to walk on it carefully with you. Because your emotions are not your enemy. They are not weaknesses. They are not flaws. They are part of the beautiful, complex design of who you are. But emotions, powerful and real as they are, were never designed to be the ones driving your life. They were designed to be passengers, not pilots. And somewhere along the way, yours have quietly taken the wheel. You have been carrying hurt that you have not fully processed. Disappointment that pressed deeper than you admitted. Frustration that simmered quietly beneath your composed exterior. Comparison that crept in when you saw others moving forward, while you felt stuck. You managed all of these things. You kept functioning. You kept showing up. You told people you were fine. But internally, these emotions have been making decisions for you. They have been influencing what you say, how you react, what you reach for, and what you pull away from, all without your conscious awareness. When hurt is driving, you withdraw before it is time to withdraw. You protect yourself in ways that actually isolate you from the very connection you need. When comparison is driving, you chase the wrong things for the wrong reasons, constantly measuring your life against someone else's visible highlight and always feeling like you are falling short. When frustration is driving, your words come out sharper than you intended. Your patience wears thin faster than you want it to, and you make choices in heated moments that you quietly regret when the temperature cools. I am not telling you to pretend these emotions do not exist. I am not asking you to paste a smile over genuine pain. What I am asking you to do is bring those emotions to me before you act on them. Give them to me first. Sit with me in the discomfort before you reach for a quick solution that only addresses the surface. Tell me honestly what you feel. Admit the anger. Admit the sadness. Admit the fear. Admit the envy. There is no emotion you have that surprises me or offends me. I already know. I just want you to stop hiding it and start surrendering it. Because here is the truth about emotions that are hidden and suppressed. They do not disappear. They go underground. And underground emotions have a way of leaking out in unexpected directions. They come out in sharp words spoken to someone who did not deserve them. They come out in self-sabotage, in pulling away from good things because you are afraid of being hurt again. They come out in numbness, in that quiet emotional flatness that keeps you safe from pain, but also keeps you disconnected from joy. You deserve more than emotional survival. You deserve genuine healing, and healing requires you to feel, to name, to face, and then to release. That process is not always comfortable. In fact, it is often painful in the short term. But the freedom on the other side of honest healing is worth every difficult moment of getting there. Do not avoid the process because the process feels hard. Lean into it. Let me walk you through it. I am a safe place for every emotion you carry. We are committed to spreading hope, faith, and the message of Jesus Christ to people around the world. If you would like to help us continue this work, please visit our Ko-Fi or PayPal links below. Your kindness means more than words can express. Now let me speak to you about your connections, about the relationships and environments that surround you and shape you more than you probably realize. Because one of the most powerful forces in any person's life is the company they keep. And I want to address this with real honesty and real love, because this is an area where many people feel deeply torn. There is a connection in your life, possibly a person, possibly a group, possibly even an environment like a workplace or a social circle that has more influence over you than you have admitted to yourself. It feels familiar. It feels comfortable. It feels like belonging. And belonging is a powerful force. You were created with a genuine need for connection, for community, for being known and accepted. That desire is not a weakness. It is part of your design. But the question I want you to sit with honestly is this. When you leave this connection, when you walk away from that person, or that group, or that environment, do you feel stronger or slightly diminished? Do you feel more like yourself or slightly less? Does your sense of purpose feel clearer or a little more confused? Does your peace increase or quietly shrink? Pay attention to those signals. Your spirit has been whispering subtle warnings about this connection. Not loud alarms, not dramatic revelations, just gentle, persistent awareness, a slight unease after certain conversations, a quiet sense that you have softened parts of yourself in order to maintain access to this relationship, a growing pattern of laughing at things that once unsettled you, staying silent when your spirit wanted to speak, bending your convictions slightly so that the tension stays manageable. Love should never require you to shrink. Real belonging never asks you to become less of yourself to earn your place. If you feel consistent pressure to dilute your identity in order to maintain a relationship. That pressure is not love. That pressure is imbalance. And imbalance, left unaddressed, slowly pulls you off course in ways that compound quietly over time. I am not telling you to burn bridges or walk away from people without wisdom and care. What I am asking you to do is to stand upright within your relationships, to stop bending yourself into shapes that are easier for others to accept, to speak your truth gently but without apology, to set boundaries respectfully but without wavering, to be exactly who you are, even if that makes some people uncomfortable. Because the people who are truly meant to be in your life will celebrate your authenticity, not punish it. And if someone withdraws because you choose to live with integrity, let that withdrawal speak for itself. You do not need to chase what cannot honor your growth. You do not need to sacrifice your peace to maintain proximity to someone who drains it. I can bring you the kind of connection that builds you rather than erodes you. But you have to release the grip on what is misaligned in order to receive what is truly good. Here is something I also want to speak to you about with great care. Your confidence. Because what I have been observing in you is that your confidence has not shattered all at once. It has simply thinned. It has worn down gradually, the way a well-worn path gets carved into the earth one footstep at a time, until the groove is deep and the direction feels fixed. You used to trust your instincts more. You used to move forward with a quiet steadiness that did not require constant external reassurance. You were not arrogant. You were anchored. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. You started second-guessing yourself. You began questioning your judgment before you had even fully formed a thought. You replayed old decisions that did not work out and used them as evidence that you simply cannot be trusted to navigate your own life wisely. That internal narrative has been heavy, and it has been affecting everything. It affects how you approach opportunities, how you handle relationships, how you respond to challenges. When you do not trust yourself, you either freeze in indecision, paralyzed by fear of getting it wrong again, or you outsource every decision to whoever is willing to give you the loudest and most confident sounding opinion. And neither of those patterns serves you. I need you to understand something that is foundational. Your confidence was never meant to be rooted in a perfect track record. It was meant to be rooted in relationship with me. When your confidence is built on the foundation of trusting me and knowing that I am guiding you, and that even your mistakes are being redeemed and used for your growth, then setbacks do not shatter you. They instruct you. Failures do not define you. They refine you. Mistakes do not become permanent identity labels. They become chapters of wisdom in the story of your becoming. The enemy knows that a person who doesn't trust themselves is a person who can be easily manipulated. If you believe you cannot hear clearly, you will follow the loudest voice available. If you believe you cannot decide wisely, you will hand your authority to whoever seems most certain. I did not design you for that kind of dependence. I designed you for confident, discerning, purposeful living, and I am inviting you to reclaim that confidence today. Start small. Make a decision you have been postponing. Pray it through. Then step forward. Observe the outcome without harsh self-criticism. Whether it unfolds perfectly or not, pay attention to what you learn. Confidence is not built in the moments of certainty. It is built in the moments of courage, when you step forward even though you are not sure, when you trust even when you cannot see the full picture, when you keep moving even when the path feels uncertain. You are not defined by your worst moments. You are not the sum of your biggest mistakes. You are a person who is learning, growing, adjusting, and becoming. And that process is beautiful, even when it is hard, even when it is slow, even when it circles back around territory you thought you had already covered. Growth is not always linear. Sometimes it spirals. But the spiraling is still movement, and movement is still forward, even when it does not feel that way. Now there is something I want to address that sits close to the surface for many people, but rarely gets spoken about directly. It is the quiet numbness that sets in when you have been through too much for too long. When you have hoped and been disappointed enough times that hoping starts to feel foolish. When you have opened yourself up and been hurt enough times that openness starts to feel dangerous. When you have tried and failed enough times that trying starts to feel exhausting. And so you made a choice, not a dramatic announcement, just a quiet internal decision to feel a little less, to invest a little less, to expect a little less, to protect yourself by keeping your heart at a safer distance from everything that could disappoint you. And in the short term, it worked. The pain felt more manageable. The risk felt more controlled. You told yourself this was maturity, this was wisdom, this was just being realistic. But here is what I need you to understand. Numbness does not only block pain, it blocks everything. When you turn down the volume on hurt, you also turn down the volume on joy. When you guard your heart from disappointment, you also guard it from delight. When you stop fully investing, you stop fully receiving. And the life that results is a smaller, quieter, safer version of what you were actually created for. You were not designed for emotional survival. You were designed for a full, deeply felt, richly experienced life. A life where love runs deep, and purpose burns bright, and connection feels real, and meaning permeates even the ordinary moments. That kind of life is not possible from behind an emotional wall. That kind of life requires you to be present, available, open, and yes, sometimes vulnerable. I know that vulnerability has cost you. I know that openness has led to pain in the past. I am not asking you to be reckless with your heart. I am asking you to trust me with it. Bring me the places that still ache. Bring me the hopes you quietly shelved because you were afraid of another disappointment. Bring me the dreams you tucked away for safekeeping because they felt too fragile to carry in the open. Bring it all to me, and let me hold it with you. Let me show you that healing is real and restoration is possible, and hope is not foolish. Hope, anchored in me, is the most powerful force available to the human heart. Begin the journey back to openness gradually. You do not have to throw every wall down at once. Just take one step. Reach back out to something that once inspired you. Allow yourself to feel genuinely excited about something again. Let yourself hope for something, even if just a small something. That re-engagement, that one small step toward being emotionally present and alive, is where your restoration begins. Now let me speak to you about something that I know you will recognize the moment I name it. Cycles. Repetitive patterns. The experience of breaking free from something, feeling genuinely strong and clear, and then slowly, almost imperceptibly, finding yourself circling back around to the very thing you thought you had left behind. And the quiet, heavy frustration that comes with recognizing that you are back here again, standing in familiar territory that you thought you had moved on from for good. I need you to hear me clearly about this. Repeating a pattern does not make you a hopeless case. It does not make you incapable of real change. It does not mean you are spiritually weak, or morally failing, or fundamentally broken. What recurring patterns most often reveal is simply this. The surface behavior was addressed, but the root beneath it was not. And roots do not die because you trim the branch above them. Roots die when they are exposed to light, examined honestly, and dealt with at the source. So the question I want you to sit with honestly is not, why do I keep doing this? The deeper question is, what is going on underneath this? What is the emotional trigger that pulls you back toward this pattern? Is it loneliness that reaches for this as comfort? Is it stress that retreats to this as escape? Is it insecurity that returns to this because it feels familiar even when it is harmful? Is it boredom or fear or a wound that never received proper attention and healing? That underlying driver matters far more than the visible behavior. Because when you identify it and address it honestly, you are no longer fighting shadows. You are dealing with substance. And that is where real, lasting, stable freedom comes from. Not from willpower alone, not from trying harder with gritted teeth, but from honest diagnosis followed by genuine healing at the root level. I also want to say something about the shame that tends to accompany these cycles. Because shame is one of the most counterproductive experiences a person can carry when they are trying to change. Shame does not motivate lasting growth. It drives behavior underground where it becomes harder to address. It creates a cycle of hiding and relapsing and hiding again. I am not a God of shame. I am a God of truth and restoration. I do not stand over you with disappointment when you return to something familiar. I stand beside you with clarity and invitation, saying, let us go deeper this time. Let us address the real thing. Let us find the root and let the light into it. This time, when you decide to address this pattern, do not just address the behavior. Go after the belief beneath it. Heal the wound that feeds it. Build new rhythms that starve it of the triggers it needs to survive. Prepare in advance. And know your vulnerable moments before they arrive. Have a plan for what you will reach for instead of the old pattern. When loneliness or stress or insecurity shows up, replace the pattern with something that genuinely nourishes you rather than just temporarily relieves you. And give yourself grace in the process, because freedom built on grace is far more sustainable than freedom built on fear. My dear child, I want to sit with you a little longer today, because what I have already shared with you is real and important. But there is more. There are rooms inside your heart that we have not yet walked into together. There are areas of your inner life that have been quietly waiting for this conversation. And I love you too much to leave them untouched. So stay with me. Keep your heart open. What comes next may be the part that changes everything. Let me speak to you about something that has been operating silently in the background of your life, like a slow leak in a pipe. You do not always see it. You do not always name it. But it has been draining something from you every single day. It is the habit of comparison. The constant, almost unconscious measuring of your life against the lives of others. And in a world where everyone's highlights are on full display at all times, this habit has never been easier to fall into and never been more quietly destructive. You pick up your phone, and before 30 seconds have passed, you have already absorbed 10 different glimpses of other people's lives, their achievements, their relationships, their bodies, their homes, their opportunities, their apparent joy and ease and progress. And something happens inside you in response to all of that, something you may not even fully register consciously, but something that is real and cumulative and shaping. You begin, without deciding to measure your own life against all of those images. And in that comparison, your own life almost always comes up lacking in some way. You look at someone who seems to be thriving in the very area where you feel stuck, and something quietly deflates inside you. You look at someone who appears to have the kind of relationship you deeply long for, and loneliness presses a little harder. You look at someone whose career seems to be moving with effortless momentum, while yours feels like wading through concrete, and discouragement wraps its arms around you before you even realize it has arrived. And here is what is so insidious about this. You know, at some rational level, that what you are seeing is not the full picture. You know that social media is a highlight reel, not a documentary. You know that the people who look most together are often carrying things behind closed doors that would humble you if you knew. You know all of this, and yet the comparison still lands. It still stings. It still quietly reshapes what you believe about yourself and your life and your future. Because comparison does not operate at the level of rational analysis. It operates at the level of feeling. And feelings do not always respond to facts. They respond to repeated exposure. And you have been repeatedly exposing yourself to other people's best moments, and then measuring those moments against your own worst days. That is not a fair comparison. It is not even a real comparison. It is an illusion, but the emotional damage it does is very real. I want to say something to you that I need you to really hear. Your life cannot be fairly measured against anyone else's. Not because your life is perfect or without room for growth, but because your life is entirely unique. Your path, your timing, your calling, your assignments, your growth edges, your seasons, they are yours alone. They were designed specifically for you. They do not correspond to anyone else's template. And so, trying to evaluate your progress by laying your story next to someone else's story is like trying to measure a circle with a ruler designed for straight lines. The tool simply does not apply. I did not create you to run someone else's race. I created you to run yours. And your race has a different terrain, a different pace, different markers of progress, and a different destination than the person next to you. What looks like someone being ahead of you is often simply someone being on a different track entirely. You are not behind them. You are not in competition with them. You are on your own path, moving at the pace I designed for you, toward something I specifically prepared for you. And no one else can run that race. No one else can reach that destination. It belongs only to you. The moment you stop looking sideways and bring your eyes back to your own path, something shifts. The energy that was being drained by comparison becomes available again. The mental and emotional space that was being consumed by measuring yourself against others opens up and fills with something far more useful: focus, clarity, renewed engagement with your own actual life. And that re-engagement is where momentum rebuilds. Here is what I want you to practice. Every time you notice comparison rising, every time that familiar deflation settles in, as you absorb someone else's highlight, gently redirect. Not harshly, not with self-criticism for comparing again. Just gently, like turning the wheel of a car back toward the road. Simply bring your attention back to your own lane, back to your own story, back to the question that actually matters, which is not, how does my life measure up to theirs, but rather, am I being faithful to what I am called to today? Am I moving forward in my own direction? Am I honoring the specific gifts and calling and season that belong to me? That question is the right one, and the answer to it, honestly pursued, is the only measure of progress that actually matters for your life. Now I want to speak to you about something that very few people are willing to name honestly. Something that likes to hide behind spiritual language and good intentions and genuine care for others, but that has a shadow side that can do real damage when it goes unexamined. I want to talk to you about pride. Not the obvious, loud, arrogant kind that is easy to recognize and easy to call out. The quiet kind, the subtle kind, the kind that wears the clothing of humility while quietly operating from a place of self-protection and self-promotion. Quiet pride shows up in the way you struggle to genuinely celebrate someone else's success without a whisper of resentment or comparison underneath. It shows up in the way you find it hard to admit when you are wrong, not because you are dishonest, but because being wrong feels like a threat to your self-image. It shows up in the way you give advice more easily than you receive it, how you can speak into other people's lives with confidence while bristling subtly when someone speaks into yours. It shows up in the way you hold onto offenses longer than is healthy, because letting them go can feel like letting the other person off the hook, when really it is your own ego that is holding the grudge. Quiet pride shows up in the way you resist vulnerability, because vulnerability requires admitting need, and admitting need feels uncomfortably close to admitting weakness. And admitting weakness threatens the image of competence and togetherness that you have worked hard to maintain. So you carry things alone that were meant to be carried with others. You struggle in silence when you could ask for help. You perform strength when genuine strength would actually look like honesty about your limits. I am not speaking to you with accusation. I am speaking with the tenderness of someone who knows you completely and loves you completely and wants you free from everything that silently constricts you. Pride, even the quiet kind, is a constriction. It narrows your ability to receive. It limits your capacity for genuine connection. It creates a subtle but persistent loneliness, because real intimacy requires real honesty, and quiet pride resists the kind of honesty that makes true intimacy possible. The invitation I am extending to you is toward what I call ground-level living, not self-deprecation, not the performance of humility that is actually just another form of pride in disguise, but genuine, grounded, secure humility that is unafraid to be seen as imperfect because its worth is not built on an image. The kind of humility that can say, "I was wrong," without it feeling like an identity crisis. The kind that can genuinely celebrate another person's success because it is not threatened by someone else's flourishing. The kind that can receive correction without defensiveness because it knows the difference between an attack on your person and an invitation toward your growth. That kind of humility is actually one of the most powerful things a person can carry. It opens doors that pride keeps closed. It creates connections that pretense keeps at bay. It invites the kind of grace that only settles in spaces that have been genuinely emptied of self-sufficiency. And it positions you to receive from me in ways that pride simply cannot access. Come down from the performance. Stop managing the image. Let yourself be honestly, imperfectly, vulnerably human. That is the person I love. That is the person others are actually waiting to connect with. The real you is far more compelling than the curated version you have been working so hard to maintain. Now let me speak to you about something that may be one of the most common and most quietly debilitating patterns in the life of a person who genuinely cares about their faith and their relationships. People pleasing. The deep, persistent, often exhausting compulsion to make sure that everyone around you is comfortable, that no one is upset with you, that you have managed everyone's feelings and met everyone's expectations and kept the peace in every situation. The relentless internal monitoring of how you are being perceived and received, and what adjustments you might need to make in order to maintain approval. People pleasing sounds harmless from the outside. It can even look like virtue, like kindness, like consideration, like selflessness. But on the inside, it is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry, because it means you never fully rest. You never simply exist without calculating the effect of your existence on others. You never make a decision without first running it through the filter of how it will be received. You never speak your truth freely, because your truth is always subordinated to the question of whether it will please or displease the people whose approval you depend on. And at the root of people pleasing is almost always some version of the same fear. The fear that if you are too honest, too boundaried, too clearly yourself, people will leave. People will withdraw. People will decide you are too much or too difficult or not worth the effort. And then you will be alone. And aloneness, to a people pleaser, feels like one of the most threatening things in the world. I understand that fear. I know where it came from. I know the specific experiences in your specific history that taught you that your full self was a liability rather than a gift. That taught you that love was conditional on your performance, your compliance, your willingness to make yourself smaller so that others could be more comfortable. Those lessons were painful, and they were wrong, and they have been running your relational life ever since you learned them. Here is the truth I want to replace those lessons with. You are not responsible for managing everyone's emotional experience of you. You are not obligated to be endlessly agreeable in order to maintain access to love. You do not have to earn your place in the lives of people who genuinely belong in yours. Real love, the kind that is actually worth having, can handle your honesty. It can handle your boundaries. It can handle the times when you disagree or disappoint or say no. If someone's connection to you is entirely conditional on your compliance, what you have is not love. It is a transaction, and you deserve more than transactions. The most loving thing you can sometimes do for another person is to be honest with them, rather than comfortable for them. Growth rarely lives in comfortable spaces, and if you are always managing and adjusting and softening yourself to keep everyone comfortable, you are robbing the people you love of the gift of encountering someone who tells the truth. You are robbing yourself of the freedom of actually being known. And you are slowly, steadily losing access to your own authentic voice, your own clear sense of what you think and feel and want and need. Begin practicing small acts of honest self-expression, not reckless honesty that disregards others, but kind, clear, genuine honesty. Express a preference you would normally have suppressed. Set a small boundary you would normally have abandoned to keep the peace. Disagree gently but clearly with something you would normally have gone along with to avoid tension. And notice what happens. Notice that the world does not end. Notice that the people who truly care for you can handle it. And notice how even that small act of honesty feels like taking a breath of fresh air after a very long time of breathing something stale. Your voice matters. Your perspective matters. The real you, unedited and unmanaged, is exactly what this world needs more of. Stop hiding it out of fear. Let it breathe. This ministry exists to bring encouragement, prayer, and God's truth to every heart that needs it. You can stand with us through the Ko-Fi or PayPal links in the description and pinned comment. May God bless you abundantly for your love and support. Now, my dear child, I want to speak very carefully and very tenderly about something that may touch a place inside you that is still raw, still tender, still not fully healed. I want to speak about forgiveness. Not the easy kind of forgiveness where someone apologized and made things right and healing followed naturally, but the hard kind. The kind that is asked of you when no apology has come, when justice has not been served, when the person who hurt you does not seem to be carrying any of the weight of what they did, while you are still carrying all of it. That kind of forgiveness. There are people in your life who hurt you. Some of them knew exactly what they were doing and did it anyway. Some of them were careless and thoughtless and caused damage without ever fully grasping the depth of what their words or their choices or their absence did to you. Some of them have moved on entirely, living their lives without apparent awareness of the wound they left in yours. And the wound is still there. You have been carrying it, protecting it, defending it, because in some ways, holding on to it feels like the only form of power you have in a situation where you were otherwise powerless. I understand that. Holding on to offense can feel like justice. It can feel like self-protection. It can feel like refusing to let someone off the hook for what they did. But I need to tell you something gently that I hope you will receive with an open heart. The weight of unforgiveness is being carried entirely by you. The other person is not feeling it. They are not losing sleep over the fact that you have not forgiven them. The resentment you are holding is not punishing them. It is only quietly and persistently punishing you. Forgiveness is not for them. It is for you. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is not erasing what was done or pretending the pain was not real. It is not even necessarily restoring the relationship to what it was before, because some relationships should not be restored. Some boundaries should remain permanent, and forgiveness does not require you to reopen yourself to someone who demonstrated they were not safe. Forgiveness is simply the decision to put down the weight, to release the stranglehold that the past has on your present, to stop allowing what someone else did then to determine the quality of your life now. When you hold unforgiveness, you give the person who hurt you continued power over your internal world. They live rent-free in the space of your thoughts. They shape your mood and your reactions and your sense of yourself even when they are nowhere near you. And the longer you carry it, the more of your present life gets colored by that past pain. Forgiveness takes that power back. It reclaims your interior world from the influence of someone who forfeited the right to occupy it. This is not simple. I know that. True forgiveness, especially of deep wounds, is often a process rather than a single moment. It is something you may need to choose repeatedly before it fully settles. You may say the words and mean them, and then find the next day that the familiar resentment has crept back in, and you need to choose again. That is normal. That is not failure. That is the honest process of real forgiveness being worked out over time. Come to me with the wound. Tell me who hurt you and how much it still aches. Do not sanitize it for me. Do not make it more acceptable than it actually was. Bring me the real weight of it, and then let me help you lay it down. Let me be the one who holds justice in your situation, because I see everything, I miss nothing, and I am far better equipped to deal with it than you are. Give me the case. Release your grip on the verdict, and walk away lighter than you arrived. You deserve to live freely. Forgiveness is the door to that freedom. Walk through it, and connected to forgiveness. I want to speak about unhealed wounds more broadly, because some of what is driving the patterns in your life, the people-pleasing, the comparison, the emotional reactions that feel disproportionate, the fears that seem larger than the situation warrants. Some of what is underneath all of that is pain that was never properly tended to. Wounds that were bandaged over rather than truly cleaned and healed. And bandaged over wounds have a way of informing everything, quietly, persistently, from underneath. You may have experiences from your past, your childhood, your early relationships, your formative years, that shaped the way you see yourself and others and the world. Experiences that taught you things that were not true, but felt very true at the time. That love is not safe. That you are not enough. That your needs are too much. That vulnerability leads to pain. That you have to earn your place. That you are fundamentally different from everyone else in ways that make belonging impossible. That good things do not last. That trusting leads to betrayal. Those are lies. But they were installed in you through real experiences that carried real pain. And they did not disappear just because time passed. They went underground. And they have been operating from underground ever since, shaping your decisions and your relationships and your sense of what is possible for you, in ways you may not have fully connected to their source. True healing requires going back for those wounds, not to live there permanently, not to wallow or to define yourself by past pain, but to bring light into the places that have been operating in darkness, to name what happened honestly, to grieve what was genuinely lost, to release what has been held in the body and the heart and the memory longer than it was meant to be held. That process is tender. It is sometimes uncomfortable. It sometimes requires help, whether that is someone to walk alongside you, a counselor, a trusted guide, a community. There is no shame in needing help to heal. Wounds of significant depth almost always benefit from more than one set of hands. Come to me in the healing process. I am gentle with wounds. I do not rush them. I do not minimize them. I do not tell you to simply get over it. I sit with you in the pain long enough for the light to reach the deepest parts. And as the light reaches those parts, as the lies that were installed in the pain are exposed and replaced with truth, something fundamental begins to shift. Your reactions change because your wounds are no longer running them. Your fears reduce because the past pain is no longer inflating the perceived danger of the present. Your capacity for love and trust and connection expands because the walls built to protect old wounds are no longer necessary. That kind of healing is available to you. It is not a quick process. It is not always a comfortable one, but it is real, and it is worth every step of the journey. You do not have to carry old wounds forever. Healing is not just possible. It is promised. And I am committed to walking every step of it with you. Now, I want to address something that touches the area of your spiritual life specifically. Something that is common and that almost no one talks about honestly because it feels embarrassing to admit. Spiritual laziness. Not the dramatic kind of spiritual rebellion where you are consciously walking away from everything you believe, but the subtle, creeping kind where your spiritual life quietly loses its depth and its urgency and begins to function more as a background feature than a central priority. It happens gradually. You were once genuinely hungry. You came to prayer with a real sense of need and a real expectation that something would happen. You engaged with truth with a genuine desire to understand and apply it. You approached your faith with the kind of active, seeking, expectant posture that produces real spiritual growth and real spiritual experience. And somewhere along the way, that hunger became routine. That seeking became perfunctory. That expectation got replaced with going through the motions. You still do the things. You might still pray, read, attend, participate, but the life has drained out of the practice. The form is there, but the substance is thinned, and you have noticed it. You have felt the flatness of it. But changing it has felt like more effort than you have had available. And so you have allowed the routine to continue and hoped it would eventually reawaken on its own. Here is what I want you to understand. Spiritual hunger does not automatically sustain itself. It has to be fed. And what you feed it determines whether it grows or shrinks. When you consistently feed your spirit with depth, with honest engagement, with genuine seeking, it grows. It becomes more hungry, not less. Spiritual hunger, properly fed, is self-perpetuating. But when it is consistently underfed, when it is given only the bare minimum of religious routine without real substance, it begins to thin. And eventually, what was a roaring fire becomes a very small, very quiet ember. You are not beyond rekindling. Embers, properly tended, become fires again. But you have to be intentional about the tending. You cannot wait to feel like it before you engage. You cannot wait for the fire to reignite itself before you begin feeding it. You have to begin feeding it in faith before you feel the warmth, trusting that the warmth will come. That is what it means to pursue me when you do not feel me nearby. That faithfulness, the showing up when the feeling is absent, is one of the most significant spiritual disciplines available to you. And it is one that produces the deepest and most lasting kind of spiritual depth. Come back to me with hunger. Even if the hunger feels faint, bring what you have. Even if it feels like you are going through the motions at first, bring the motion, and ask me to bring the meaning. Engage honestly. Ask me questions you genuinely want answered. Tell me the things you genuinely do not understand. Wrestle with the things that confuse you. Do not give me the polished, performed version of your spiritual self. Give me the real one. The hungry, confused, tired, seeking one. That is the one I can actually work with. That is the one I delight to meet. Now let me speak about something that operates both in your spiritual life and in your everyday relationships. The power of your tongue. The things you say, and the things you do not say, and the tone in which you say them. Because your words are far more powerful than you have been treating them. They are not just communication, they are creation. They build atmospheres. They shape realities. They plant seeds in other people's lives that grow long after the conversation has ended. And they create internal environments in your own heart that align either with truth or with confusion. You have been careless with some of your words lately. Not maliciously careless, just habitually careless in the way that happens when life gets busy and the filter between thought and speech gets thinner. Words have slipped out in moments of frustration that were sharper than intended. Complaints have accumulated without being balanced by gratitude. Negative narratives about your own life and capabilities have been spoken as if they were settled fact, rather than a perspective worth questioning. And sometimes, significantly, the right words have not been spoken at all. Words of encouragement held back. Words of truth withheld. Words of repair left unsaid because the timing never felt quite right. Begin taking your words more seriously, not in a rigid, anxious, hyper-controlled way, but in the way of someone who genuinely understands that what they say matters. Before you speak in an emotionally charged moment, pause. Give yourself the space of one breath. Ask yourself whether these words are going to build something or damage something. Ask whether they reflect the person you want to be. That single pause, practiced consistently, changes the landscape of your relationships and your own internal world over time. And speak the words that need to be spoken. Tell the people in your life what they mean to you before life moves so fast that the moment passes. Speak encouragement into the lives of people who need it. Speak truth kindly but clearly when truth is what the situation requires. Speak forgiveness when forgiveness is what will free both of you. And speak hope into your own heart in the moments when discouragement is trying to have the louder voice. Your words are seeds. Choose carefully what you plant, because what you plant consistently will grow, and what grows shapes not just your life, but the lives of everyone your life touches. I also want to speak to you about the seasons when I feel silent, because I know those seasons are some of the hardest you face. Seasons where you have been faithfully showing up, genuinely seeking, honestly bringing yourself to me, and the response feels absent. The silence feels deafening, and the questions that arise in that silence are real and they are heavy. Have I done something wrong? Has something changed? Am I doing this incorrectly? Is there something about me that has caused this distance? I want to speak directly into that experience. My silence is not rejection. My silence is not punishment. My silence is not evidence that I have moved or withdrawn or changed my mind about you. I am as present in my silence as I am in the moments when my presence feels tangible and near. My silence is sometimes the deepest form of trust. It is the space in which your faith is strengthened in ways that felt presence cannot produce. It is the training ground of a deeper reliance, one that is not based on emotional experience, but on settled conviction about who I am and what I have promised. The most mature faith is not the faith that says, I feel you near, therefore I believe. It is the faith that says, I do not feel you near right now, and I trust you anyway. I do not hear you clearly in this moment, and I choose to believe you have not stopped speaking. I cannot see evidence of your hand in my situation right now, and I hold on to the certainty of your faithfulness. based not on what I currently feel, but on what I know to be permanently true about your character. That kind of faith does not develop in the seasons of felt presence. It develops in the seasons of silence. And the person who comes through a silent season with their trust intact, without demanding that I perform on their emotional timeline, without abandoning the walk because the warmth temporarily faded, that person emerges with a quality of spiritual depth that cannot be gained any other way. Hold on in the silent seasons. Do not interpret absence of feeling as absence of me. Do not mistake the quiet for distance. Keep showing up. Keep bringing yourself honestly. Keep choosing trust even when trust feels unwarranted by your current experience. The silence will break. It always does. And when it does, you will understand something about me and about yourself that the comfortable seasons could never have taught you. Now I want to give you something very practical before we move to the close of this section. I want to give you 5 specific things you can begin doing today. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Today. Because the gap between knowing and doing is where so much potential is quietly lost. And today is the day to begin closing that gap. The first thing is this. Set aside 10 minutes of genuine silence before the world gets your attention in the morning. Not silence filled with plans and mental rehearsal. Real silence, stillness, presence. Just you and me, before anything or anyone else. Do that for 7 days and notice what shifts. The second thing. Identify one relationship in your life where you have been managing yourself in order to keep peace. And in the next conversation you have with that person, say one honest thing that you would normally have suppressed. Do it gently. Do it kindly. But do it. Practice the courage of honest self-expression in a small and safe way. The third thing. Write down the name of one person you need to forgive. Someone toward whom you have been carrying resentment, or hurt, or bitterness. You do not need to contact them. You do not need to restore the relationship. Just write the name. And then sit quietly with me and say out loud, I choose to release this person from the verdict I have been holding. I release the weight, and mean it as much as you can in this moment. The process of forgiveness has to begin somewhere. Let it begin there. The fourth thing. Choose one source of unnecessary comparison in your life. One account you follow, one social environment, one habit of checking that consistently leaves you feeling inadequate or behind. And remove it for 30 days. Give yourself 30 days without that particular comparison trigger and observe what happens to your sense of peace and your sense of your own life's goodness. The fifth thing. Before you go to sleep tonight, name 3 things that were genuinely good in your day. Not grand things, just real things. Goodness you noticed. Moments where grace showed up. Small gifts that the gratitude, blind version of you might have walked past without registering. Name them, speak them, write them if you can. And end your day in that awareness, rather than in the mental replay of everything that went wrong or everything you are worried about. These 5 things are simple. They are not dramatic. They do not require unusual resources or extraordinary conditions. They require only consistency and honesty and a genuine willingness to let your daily life become the arena where real transformation happens, one ordinary, intentional choice at a time. And if you are someone who has been waiting for the dramatic moment, the big spiritual experience, the powerful event that will finally shift everything, I want to gently redirect that expectation. Transformation almost always happens in the ordinary, in the daily, in the repeated small choices that feel insignificant in isolation but add up over time to a life that looks completely different from the one you would have lived if you had kept waiting for the extraordinary to arrive. Your ordinary days are the material of your extraordinary life. Honor them. Show up to them with intention. Bring your best self to the small moments, because the small moments are where most of your life actually lives. And a life lived with intention and honesty and genuine connection in the small moments is one of the most beautiful things I ever get to witness. You are more than you have been giving yourself credit for. Your life is richer than you have been allowing yourself to believe. Your future is more full of possibility than your current discouragement is letting you see. And I am more committed to your flourishing than you could ever fully comprehend. Take these things. Live them. Practice them. Let them become the rhythm of your days. And watch what I do with the ordinary life of a person who chooses, consistently, to live it with honest intention and genuine love. I am proud of you. Not for what you will accomplish, for who you are choosing to become. That is the thing that moves my heart, and it moves it deeply when it comes to you. Now I want to address something that may be slightly uncomfortable for you to hear, but that I want to name with love and directness. The fear of missing out. The quiet anxiety that someone else is advancing while you are standing still. The internal pressure that whispers, if you do not move now, you will lose your chance. If you do not say yes to this opportunity, someone else will take your place. If you hesitate even for a moment, the window will close and the moment will be gone forever. That fear has been influencing you. It has been pushing you toward things that look good on the surface, but feel unsettled underneath. It has been driving you to say yes quickly, before you have had time to genuinely discern whether something is right for you. It has been creating a sense of frantic urgency that feels like excitement, but is actually anxiety dressed in opportunity's clothing. I want to say something very plainly and very clearly. Not every open door is a door I open for you. Access is not the same as alignment. Just because something becomes available does not mean it is meant for you. Just because an opportunity appears and looks impressive does not mean walking through it will take you where you truly need to go. Some doors, when you walk through them, lead to exactly what you needed. Others lead to complexity and compromise, and a long road of recovering from what seemed like progress. The way to tell the difference is not by the shine of the opportunity. It is by the peace underneath the excitement. Strip away the surface appeal. Quiet the noise of what looks impressive or what others would think. Go beneath all of that and ask yourself honestly, beneath the excitement, do I feel genuine peace about this? Or do I feel subtle strain? Am I drawn by a sense of clear purpose? Or am I pulled by pride or fear, or the desire to have something to show for myself? Peace is the signature of alignment, not ease, because the right doors sometimes require courage and hard work, but genuine inner peace. That quiet, settled assurance that says even though this is big, and even though this is bold, this is right. That is what you are looking for. And if it is not there, that absence matters. Do not override it because others are excited. Do not dismiss it because the opportunity looks impressive. Trust what your spirit is telling you underneath the surface. What is truly meant for you can withstand patient, prayerful discernment. What is not meant for you tends to demand haste. Real destiny does not crumble because you took a moment to pray. Manipulation requires speed because it cannot survive honest examination. I am not in the business of manipulation. I guide. I invite. I illuminate. I do not pressure or corner or rush you into decisions you have not had time to sit with. So slow down. Evaluate thoughtfully. Ask me directly for clarity. Wait for peace before you move. And trust that when I have something for you, it will not slip through your fingers because you were wise enough to pray before you decided. Your portion cannot be stolen. Your calling cannot be replaced. You are not in competition with anyone else for the good things I have prepared for your life. Walk at the pace of wisdom, not the pace of fear. And connected to this, I want to address one more thing about urgency. Because the world you live in is saturated with manufactured urgency. You are constantly being told that you must decide now, act now, respond now, commit now. Every advertisement, every social media notification, every cultural message is essentially saying, if you wait, you lose. If you pause, you miss out. If you think too carefully, someone else will take your place. That relentless urgency has gotten into your nervous system. You feel it in your body. That tightening in your chest when an opportunity appears, and you believe you have to grab it before it disappears. That internal rush when you fear that pausing will cost you something irreplaceable. That subtle anxiety when you imagine yourself on the outside looking in while everyone else moves forward. That is not wisdom speaking. That is fear speaking. And fear is a poor navigator. Fear leads you into decisions that relieve immediate anxiety, but create long-term complications. Fear trades peace for speed. It trades alignment for activity. It trades depth for the appearance of progress. I am calling you to something different. I am calling you to learn the difference between genuine urgency, the kind that comes with calm conviction and clear purpose, and manufactured urgency, the kind that comes with tightness and anxiety, and the feeling that if you stop running for one moment, you will fall behind. One of those is from me. The other is from a culture that profits when you are too anxious and too hurried to think clearly. Practice pausing before you decide. When urgency arises, test it. Ask yourself whether the pressure is coming from clear internal knowing or from external noise and the fear of disapproval. Ask whether you feel calm conviction or anxious compulsion. Ask whether you could take 24 hours to pray about this and still have the opportunity available. If the answer is yes, take the time. If someone tells you there is no time, that itself is information worth examining. You are not behind. You have not missed your moment. You have not been forgotten or overlooked or passed over. I see you. I know your name. I know your story. I know the full arc of your life in ways you cannot yet perceive. And I am telling you with complete certainty, your best is still ahead of you. Not because life will suddenly become easy, but because you are finally beginning to understand how to navigate it with wisdom rather than just willpower. Now I want to draw this all together and speak to you about the most important thing I could possibly tell you in this entire message. Because everything we have talked about, the traps, the drift, the compromise, the distraction, the emotional storms, the misaligned connections, the cycles, the fear of missing out, all of it comes down to one central thing: the quality and depth of your relationship with me. Everything in your life flows from that source. When that connection is strong, clear, and consistent, everything else becomes more navigable. Your discernment sharpens. Your peace deepens. Your confidence stabilizes. Your capacity for love and patience and wisdom grows. You handle pressure differently. You make decisions differently. You recover from setbacks differently. Not because life becomes problem-free, but because you have access to a guidance and a strength that goes far beyond your own. And when that connection gets thin, when it gets crowded out by business, or distracted by noise, or neglected through gradual drift, everything else gets harder. Not because I have withdrawn from you. I have not moved. But because you have slowly drifted out of the range of clear reception. Like a radio that has shifted just slightly away from the station. The signal is still broadcasting. It is your receiver that has drifted. Come back to me. That is what I am asking above everything else in this message. Come back to the simple, honest, real, daily practice of being present with me. Not a performance, not a religious obligation, a relationship. Bring me your real self, not the polished version, not the one who has it together, the tired one, the confused one, The one who has been compromising and drifting and running on empty. Bring that person. That is exactly the person I want to spend time with. Because when you come to me honestly, something begins to shift. The fog begins to clear. The direction begins to come into focus. The strength begins to return. The peace that you have been chasing through distraction and comfort and human approval begins to settle in you naturally, because it was never available anywhere else. It was only ever available here, in closeness with me. You are not too far gone. You have not drifted beyond reach. You have not made too many mistakes, or wasted too much time, or compromised too deeply. None of that closes the door on your return. The door is open right now. It was open yesterday. It was open all the times you meant to come back, but did not quite make it. And it will be open tomorrow. But today, right now, this moment, I am inviting you to walk through it. Come back into closeness. Come back into clarity. Come back into the daily rhythm of genuine connection. Protect your time with me. Prioritize it fiercely. Guard it the way you guard your most important commitments. Because it is your most important commitment. Everything else in your life is built on the foundation of this one relationship. When the foundation is strong, everything built on it stands firm. When the foundation is neglected, everything built on it becomes unstable. Come back to the foundation. Come home to me. If these messages have brought peace to your heart, strengthened your faith, or reminded you of God's love, please consider supporting this ministry through the Ko-Fi or PayPal links below. Together, we can continue sharing hope and God's Word with countless souls around the world. Now, before I bring this message to its close, I want to speak to you about generosity. Not because I am trying to extract something from you, but because generosity is actually one of the most powerful tools available to you for breaking old patterns and stepping into new seasons. There is something that happens in the spirit when you give. When you sow into something greater than yourself, something shifts in you. A seed planted in good soil does not just affect the ground where it lands. It produces fruit that feeds others far beyond the original act. If this message has touched something real in you today, I want to invite you to consider sowing into this mission. When you support this channel through a super thanks, through membership, through whatever way feels right to you, you are not just doing something nice. You are participating in something that reaches people who desperately need these words. People who are sitting in their own quiet drift, their own trap of later, their own cycles of repetition, just waiting for someone to speak directly to their heart. Your generosity makes that possible. The link is in the description. And whatever you sow, small or large, I want you to know that it goes somewhere meaningful. It goes into more messages like this one. Into more moments of honest, loving truth being spoken to hearts that need it. Into more lives being gently interrupted at just the right moment. You may never know who hears these words because of your generosity, but something in you will know that you played a part. And that is a gift that comes back to you in ways you cannot always see, but will certainly feel. Now let me close with what I most want to leave in your heart. My dear child, you came to this message today carrying something. Maybe it was a quiet unease you could not quite name. Maybe it was a heaviness you had been managing for longer than you want to admit. Maybe it was a restlessness that told you something needed to change, but you were not sure what or how. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know that it was not an accident. You were led here because you matter, because your life matters, because the person you are becoming matters more than you have allowed yourself to believe lately. Everything we have talked about today, the traps, the drift, the compromise, the distraction, the emotional storms, the fear, the cycles, the numbness, none of it is your final story. None of it defines you. All of it is simply the territory of a person who is human and growing and in process. And in process means still moving, still becoming, still having the opportunity to choose differently, to live more fully, to step more boldly into the truth of who you were created to be. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not too broken or too far gone or too ordinary for the extraordinary life that has been prepared for you. You are simply someone who needed a moment of honest, loving interruption. And that is exactly what today has been. An interruption. A gentle but firm hand on your shoulder saying, "Stop for just a moment. Look at what is actually happening and choose again." So choose again today. Choose presence over distraction. Choose truth over comfort. Choose obedience over delay. Choose alignment over approval. Choose openness over numbness. Choose depth over speed. Choose connection with me over connection with anything that slowly pulls you away from who you truly are. And know this above everything else. You are loved, not conditionally, not based on your performance or your consistency or your track record. Completely, steadily, permanently. That love is not going anywhere. It was there in your drift. It was there in your compromise. It was there in every moment of delay and distraction and emotional storm. And it is here right now, in this moment, calling you forward. Not with condemnation. Walk forward, you are not alone. I am with you every single step of the way. My dear child, I want to come back to something I touched on earlier, because I feel it deserves much more space than I initially gave it. I want to talk to you about the voice inside you. That quiet, steady, sometimes barely audible whisper that speaks beneath all the noise of your life. That inner signal that pauses you mid-step. That subtle awareness that rises when you are about to say something you will regret, or agree to something that does not feel right, or continue down a path that your spirit has been quietly resisting. You have heard it. I know you have. You have felt it more times than you can count. In the middle of a conversation that was going somewhere it should not have gone, something in you hesitated. Before you sent that message, something in you paused. When you were about to make a decision that felt exciting on the surface, but unsettled underneath, something in you whispered, "Wait." That whisper was not anxiety. It was not overthinking. It was not your insecurity inventing problems. That was me speaking to you, clearly and gently, as I always do. And I want to ask you honestly, what did you do with that whisper? Did you honor it? Did you pause long enough to really listen? Or did you do what so many people do, rationalize past it, talk yourself out of it, label it as irrational fear? Push forward anyway, because the noise of the moment was louder than the quiet of the inner signal. You have been living in so much noise. The noise of notifications and opinions and expectations and comparisons and demands. And in all of that noise, my voice has grown quieter, not because I have stopped speaking, but because the competition for your attention has grown so intense that you have trained yourself to tune out subtlety and only respond to volume. You have become fluent in urgency and nearly illiterate in stillness, and that has cost you more than you realize. Every time you overrode the inner whisper, every time you moved forward despite the inner check, you trained yourself a little more to distrust your own discernment. You weakened your spiritual reflexes. You taught yourself that the quiet knowing was not reliable, that the external pressure was more trustworthy than the internal peace. And now you find yourself in a place where you are genuinely unsure how to tell the difference between my voice and your own wishful thinking or fear-based reasoning. I want to help you rebuild that discernment. But rebuilding it requires practice, and practice requires intentional stillness. It requires choosing, deliberately and consistently, to turn down the volume of the external world long enough to hear what is happening in your own spirit. It requires sitting in silence without filling that silence immediately. It requires asking me questions and then waiting, really waiting, for the answer rather than manufacturing one yourself. Here is something that will help you recognize my voice more consistently. When I speak to you, there is clarity without cruelty. There is conviction without condemnation. There is direction without panic. When I nudge you away from something, you feel a settled, calm knowing even if the decision is difficult. When I draw you toward something, you feel a steady, purposeful pull even if the path feels uncertain. There is peace at the foundation of my leading, even when the step requires courage. Contrast that with the voice of fear and manipulation, which comes with pressure and tightness, and a sense that you must decide instantly or lose everything. Learning to tell those apart is one of the most important skills you will ever develop. And it is a skill, not just a feeling. It grows through practice. It deepens through consistent relationship with me. The more time you spend in honest, quiet connection with me, the more your spiritual senses sharpen and the clearer my guidance becomes. So begin today, not dramatically, not with a huge commitment you know you will not keep, just begin. Find 10 minutes today to sit quietly with me. No agenda, no performance, just presence. Tell me honestly how you have been feeling, what has been weighing on you, what you have been afraid of, what you have been longing for, what you have been confused about. Speak it out, either aloud or in the quiet of your heart, and then sit for a moment in the stillness that follows and notice what rises. You might not hear a dramatic answer immediately. That is fine. The practice of showing up is more important than any single spiritual experience you could have. Over days and weeks of consistent quiet presence, something begins to accumulate. Clarity, sensitivity, and increasing ease in recognizing when something is from me and when it is from somewhere else. Your discernment is not broken, it is dormant, and dormant things come alive when they receive consistent attention and care. Now I want to speak to something that I know is very real for many of you who are watching this. The experience of feeling like you are walking your path largely alone, like the people around you do not fully understand what you are carrying, what you are sensing, what you are being called toward. You have tried to explain it sometimes, and you have been met with blank looks or dismissive words or well-meaning advice that completely missed the mark. And after enough of those experiences, you stopped trying to explain. You started carrying it quietly, and the quiet carrying has been heavy. Loneliness is one of the most underestimated spiritual battles a person can face. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of being deeply misunderstood, of having an inner world that feels too complex, or too tender, or too unusual to safely share with most of the people in your life. That loneliness can drive you toward connections that are not right for you, simply because they offer some form of being seen, even if it is not the full, true version of yourself being seen. It can drive you toward distractions that temporarily fill the quiet. It can drive you toward compromises that feel like belonging in the moment, but leave you feeling further from yourself afterward. I want to speak directly into that loneliness. I understand it. I am not a stranger to being misunderstood. I have walked in human skin. I have experienced the particular ache of speaking truth to people who were not ready to receive it, of caring deeply for those who did not know how to receive the depth of that care, of being surrounded by people while still being profoundly alone in what mattered most. I understand that space you are in, and I want to tell you that the loneliness you feel is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is often a sign that you are growing faster than your current environment. It is a sign that the depth of what you carry requires relationships of greater depth than what you currently have access to. And that gap, painful as it is not permanent. It is a season, a growing edge, a space that I am preparing to fill with connection that actually matches where you are going, not just where you have been. In the meantime, do not let the loneliness push you into settling. Do not let it convince you to shrink yourself so that you fit more comfortably into relationships that were not designed to hold the fullness of who you are becoming. Do not trade genuine connection for superficial belonging. The hunger for understanding is real, and it deserves to be fed with something real. And real connection, the kind that sees you and knows you and honors you and grows with you, is absolutely available to you. But you may need to release some of what you have been holding on to in order to make room for it. And while you wait for those deeper human connections to form, let me be your closest companion, not as a replacement for human relationship, because you were designed for both, but as the foundation beneath all other connections. The one who knows every part of you and loves every part of you and is never surprised by you and never disappointed in you and never withdraws based on your performance. That kind of knowing is the bedrock of a secure and unshakable sense of self. And when you are rooted in that kind of love, you stop grasping for human approval the way a drowning person grasps for anything to hold. You begin to receive love as a gift rather than hunt for it as a survival need. I also want to address something that tends to accompany loneliness, and that is the particular pain of seasons of waiting. Seasons where you are not where you used to be, but you have not yet arrived where you are going. Seasons that feel suspended, uncertain in between. Seasons where other people's lives seem to be moving with clear direction and visible progress, while yours feels like it is sitting in a kind of spiritual holding pattern. Waiting is hard. I know that. Real waiting, not passive resignation, but active trusting while things are still unsettled, requires a particular kind of strength. It requires you to hold on to conviction about your direction without yet having confirmation of your arrival. It requires you to stay the course when you cannot see the destination. It requires you to trust my faithfulness when your circumstances are not yet reflecting it visibly. And I want to tell you something about your season of waiting that I hope will shift how you are experiencing it. The waiting is not empty time. It is not wasted time. It is not punishment or oversight or abandonment. The waiting is preparation. It is the season where depth is being built in you that you will absolutely need for where you are going. It is the season where character is being formed. Faith is being strengthened. Trust is being deepened. And foundations are being laid that will bear the weight of what I am preparing to place on them. Strong structures require strong foundations, and strong foundations cannot be rushed. They have to be built carefully, layer by layer, with attention and time and patience. If I released everything you are hoping for right now, in the state you are currently in, it would not be the gift it seems. It would be a burden your current strength cannot yet sustainably carry. The waiting is the gift. The preparation is the gift, even though it does not feel like one. Trust the timing. Trust the process. Trust that what I am doing in the season you cannot see is just as real and just as important as what I will do in the season you can. Stay faithful in the invisible work. Show up consistently in the quiet seasons. Do the inner work when no one is watching and nothing visible is happening. Because it is exactly that kind of faithfulness that prepares a person for seasons of fruitfulness that actually last. Now let me speak to you about one final thing before I bring this message home. And this is something I want to say with the greatest possible tenderness. I know you are tired, not just physically, though that too. I know you are tired in the particular way that comes from carrying responsibility and uncertainty, an unmet longing for a long time. The kind of tiredness that sleep does not always fully address. The kind that settles into your spirit and makes everything feel a little heavier than it should. You have been strong for a long time. You have been holding things together, managing things, showing up even when it cost you more than anyone around you knew. You have been faithful in ways that have gone unrecognized and unacknowledged. You have kept going when stopping would have been so much easier. And that faithfulness is real and it matters, and I see every single bit of it. And nothing that has happened in your life, no mistake, no failure, no loss, no betrayal, no delay, no disappointment, has changed that foundation. Not one bit. When you begin to truly believe that, not just intellectually agree with it, but actually live from it in the marrow of your daily experience, it changes everything. It changes how you respond to criticism, because your worth is not on the line. It changes how you approach risk, because failure does not threaten your identity. It changes how you relate to others, because you are no longer constantly scanning for validation. It changes how you face uncertainty, because your security does not depend on known outcomes. Living from a secure identity is one of the most profoundly freeing experiences available to a human being. And it is available to you. Not someday when you have earned it. Now, as you are, in the middle of your mess and your growth and your uncertainty, you can begin practicing it today. The next time your worth feels threatened by someone's opinion or your own self-assessment, practice anchoring to truth instead of feeling. Remind yourself, I am my Father's child. That does not change. That is enough. And then let that truth be the ground you stand on, while everything else finds its right proportion. Now I want to speak about something that is deeply connected to identity, and that is calling. Your sense of purpose. Your understanding of why you are here, and what this life of yours is actually for. Because I think that clarity has been a little blurry recently. Not completely lost, but slightly foggy. And the fog has made it harder to make decisions. Harder to know what to say yes to, and what to say no to. Harder to feel the kind of clear directional momentum that makes ordinary life feel meaningful. Calling is not one single dramatic thing you discover once, and then execute perfectly forever. Calling is a continuous unfolding. It is a direction you grow into rather than a destination you arrive at. It deepens as you grow. It expands as you are faithful to what is in front of you. It clarifies as you spend more time with me and less time trying to figure it all out on your own. It is alive, not static, dynamic, not fixed. And in every season of your life, no matter how mundane or uncertain or transitional it feels, there is calling available to you. There is purpose accessible right where you are. Not just in the grand future moments you are hoping for, but in this ordinary Tuesday, in this challenging relationship, in this monotonous routine, in this disappointing season. Faithfulness to what is in front of you right now is not a lesser form of calling. It is often the most important form of it. Because how you handle the small and the ordinary is the training ground for the significant and the extraordinary. Do not despise your current season, because it does not feel significant enough. Do not dismiss the present because you are so focused on a future that feels more worthy of your full engagement. The present is where your life actually lives. The present is where character is actually formed. The present is where the faithfulness I am asking of you is actually demonstrated. Show up fully for it. Bring your best to it. Honor it. And trust that I see what you cannot see about how this season is laying the groundwork for everything that comes next. I want to also speak to you about the importance of gratitude in the midst of a hard season. Not the forced, performative gratitude that ignores real pain, but the genuine, searching, honest practice of looking for what is actually good and real and present, even in difficult circumstances. Because gratitude is not denial. Gratitude is the practice of refusing to let what is hard be the only thing your attention rests on. There is goodness in your life right now. I know it may be easier to see what is missing, what has not yet arrived, what has disappointed you. But if you look honestly, there is also goodness. There are people who love you. There is capacity in you that you underutilize. There is beauty available to you that you sometimes walk past without noticing, because your mind is too busy rehearsing problems to register gifts. There is grace operating in your life in ways both seen and unseen, both acknowledged and unrecognized. Practice noticing it. At the end of each day, name 3 things. Not 3 enormous dramatic things. Just 3 real things. 3 moments where goodness showed up. 3 instances where you were held, or helped, or given what you needed. 3 evidences that you are not alone, and that life is not entirely bereft of beauty. This practice, done consistently, begins to rewire the way your attention moves through a day. You begin to look for the good, because you know you will need to name it later. And the looking changes what you see. And what you see changes what you feel. And what you feel changes what you believe is possible. Gratitude is a weapon against despair. It is a practice that recalibrates your internal atmosphere when discouragement has been clouding it. It is not weakness. It is not naivety. It is not pretending that hard things are not hard. It is simply refusing to let the hard things be the whole story. Because they are not the whole story. Your life is not one-dimensional. It is rich and complex and contains both struggle and grace, both loss and gift, both pain and beauty. Gratitude keeps you seeing the full picture instead of only the painful parts. A single act of kindness can help God's message reach someone who needs hope today. If you feel blessed by this channel, you can stand with us through the Ko-Fi or PayPal links in the description and pinned comment. Thank you for helping us spread God's love one soul at a time. My dear child, I want to close this expanded portion of our conversation with a word about courage. Because everything I have been speaking to you about today, returning from drift, addressing compromise, honoring the inner whisper, breaking old cycles, releasing misaligned connections, reclaiming your confidence, rebuilding your hope, living from secure identity, pursuing your calling faithfully, practicing gratitude, all of it requires courage. Quiet, daily, unglamorous, unsexy courage. The kind that does not always get applauded or even noticed. The kind that shows up in private before it ever appears in public. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in the presence of fear. It is choosing truth when comfort would be easier. It is setting a boundary when keeping peace would feel safer. It is saying the honest thing when silence would be more convenient. It is trying again after failure when quitting would be more immediately relieving. It is staying the course in a season of invisibility when abandoning it would draw less criticism. It is living by conviction in a world that rewards conformity. That is the courage I am calling you into. Not the dramatic, sudden kind that looks impressive from the outside. The steady, faithful, daily kind that is built one small choice at a time. And every single time you choose it, even when no one sees, even when the result is not immediately obvious, even when the fear is still present, you become more of who you were always meant to be. You grow stronger, more anchored, more free. You have more courage in you than you have been using. I see it there, waiting, ready. It does not need to feel like courage for it to be courage. It just needs to be the next right step, taken regardless of how you feel. Take that step today, and then tomorrow, and then the day after. Step by step, choice by choice, season by season, you are building a life that reflects the truth of who you are and who you were made to become. I am cheering for you. I am with you. I am proud of you already, not for what you will accomplish, but for the fact that you showed up today, that you were willing to listen, that your heart is still tender enough to be reached by truth, that you have not given up. That matters. That is the beginning of everything else. You are my beloved child, and I delight in you. Go forward and live like you believe it.